You're listening to the Cyberwire Network, powered by N2K.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to N2K Cyberwire's Hacking Humans podcast, where each week we look behind the social engineering scams, phishing schemes, and criminal exploits that are making headlines and taking a heavy toll on organizations around the world. I'm Dave Bittner, and joining me is Joe Carrigan. Hey, Joe.
Hi, Dave.
And our N2K colleague and host of the T-Minus Space Daily podcast, Maria Vermazis. Maria.
Hey!
We've got some good stories to share this week, but first, this message from our show's sponsor. But first, a word from our sponsors at KnowBe4. Time travel would be a particularly powerful tool in the hands of any overworked InfoSec professional. Think about it. Being able to see the future and know which malicious emails would be missed by all the existing filters. Your ability to stay one step ahead of the bad actors would rise to a whole new level. Unfortunately, our sponsors haven't cracked time travel just yet. They are, however, introducing a new phishing protection product that can block and remove dangerous phishing emails before your users even see them. Stay with us, and in a few minutes, you'll learn how. All right, we are back, and before we jump into things here, we've got some follow-up. Joe, what do we got?
Yes, we do. Scott writes in to say, hey, guys, wanted to send a quick message about something new in Australia, down under. Now, I'm going to spare everybody my terrible Australian accent.
Thank you.
Because I am no Dave
Appreciate
Bittner.
Yeah.
But apparently things are much weirder in Australia than they are than you would think, right? Because Scott says, I was buying a couple of gifts for Father's Day presents. Father's Day is in September in Australia.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's weird. I had no idea that was the case.
It's not weird. It's just different, Joe.
It's just different.
It's just different.
Okay, right.
I mean, if you think about Father's Day being maybe seasonal, that
Right.
the same way that...
Spring.
That's right. Spring.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. Good
Yeah.
point.
So,
Good point.
yeah. Go on.
Anyway, I digress. Scott says he was using the self-service checkout, and after he scanned the gift card, a scam warning came up on the screen explaining that fraudsters asked people to pay fines, etc., with gift cards, and that if anyone asked you to buy these gift cards, you should stop. Scott says before he proceeded, he had to push a button indicating that he read and understood the warning. He thinks this is a good feature.
I agree.
Yeah, can't hurt.
Can't hurt.
No. Why not?
I don't know how much of a help this is going to be, though, because a scammer who's dealing with somebody in Australia knows that this is going to be the case. And they're going to say, just press yes on that button.
Right.
If they're on the phone with them, they're just going to walk them through it. And
Yeah.
they're already under their spell.
Just
that's
another
my
EULA.
concern. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just another EULA, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And but there's only so much that can be done at some point, right? You can't. We've talked about this where we've had situations where people are like literally grabbing family members and shaking them, going, "You got to wake up to this," and they're like, "No, it's not the case."
Right.
So
Yeah.
sometimes it's really hard.
I really am having a relationship with Jennifer Aniston.
Right.
All right. What else we got,
We
Joe?
got Jim, who wrote in and said he saw an article on a vulnerability found in one of the encryption libraries that is used in a YubiKey, Dave.
Yeah.
Now, Dave, I have
Yep.
long said YubiKey is one of my favorites, and that's the one I use, but any universal two-factor is good, and UTF. But this is specific to YubiKeys. Here's what has to happen. Somebody has to dismantle, they have to get your YubiKey, they have to dismantle your YubiKey, they have to connect it to an oscilloscope for about an hour, and after that, they can get enough information to infer the private key for the elliptic curve digital signature algorithm,
Right.
and clone the key for access to one website.
Yeah.
There's
So
your
it's a-
problem.
Yeah. It's an obtuse, obscure,
Yeah.
very difficult to pull off physical attack on the device.
Yeah.
I still say the device is good. The YubiKey is actually aware of it, and they're fixing it in, I think, versions 5.7, if my memory of reading this article is correct. 5.7 and later, that this will not be an issue. But I've seen when I was working up at Hopkins, Matt Green had a guy come in. I can't remember the guy's name, but he was a visitor. We hooked a signal analyzer up, a spectrum analyzer rather, up to a little wand antenna, and he was able to put it up next to a Apple Watch and essentially say, "See that stuff right there? That's key material," and it was just leaking key material into RF. So, I mean, this is not, like I said, this is not a new problem, but as Jim points out, there is no such thing as a perfect system.
No, of
Yeah.
course not. Yeah.
These systems are all built by people, and people are fallible.
I saw someone commenting about this on social media and said that why not, if you're going to go after somebody's YubiKey, and you have to have physical access to the YubiKey, just replace their YubiKey with an exact duplicate.
Right.
And so now you have their YubiKey. It's probably going to take them a little while to figure out that, first of all, they're just going to say, "Oh, my YubiKey broke."
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so that buys you all the time you need to do whatever you need with their actual YubiKey.
Yeah, that's a better attack vector.
Rather than cloning their YubiKey.
Right.
Now,
And that cloning, again, only good for one site,
yeah.
right? Whereas if you have the YubiKey, you can get to everything.
Jeez.
I think that what's interesting about this story is that a lot of folks believed that this was not possible. There had been no attack like this done on a YubiKey before. And so this demonstrated that while not easy, it is possible. And so it's a novel attack for that. But it's not particularly practical. So unless you are an extraordinarily high-risk person, I wouldn't worry about this, and I would just go on using your YubiKeys the way that you always did.
Yeah, I
That's
think the
my
threat
opinion.
model of having your YubiKey stolen is a much more likely threat model.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, it should be important to note that this is not a vulnerability in the UTF protocol, the Universal Two-Factor Authentication Protocol. That still doesn't have any vulnerabilities that I know of.
Okay.
It's just a hardware vulnerability, like that requires an extraordinary amount of physical access.
Yeah. All right. Well, last but not least on our feedback here, we got a note from one of our listeners who's a friend of the show and also a former U.S. Marshal. He had a comment for you, Joe, about Zelle.
Right.
He said that the marketing materials for Zelle specifically say, Zelle is a great way to transfer money between friends and family,
Right.
not strangers.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's what Zelle says in their defense of their
Right.
their stuff. Is you know,
Right,
people
exactly.
getting scammed out of money on Zelle, and
Yeah.
I agree. It's a great way, and in defense of all these payment apps, Zelle, Cash App, Venmo, whatever, what have you. They are great ways to send money to your friends and family, and nothing else. You should never send any money to anybody else without this, with these systems. I mean, I have a friend who said she was encouraging her daughter to pay her landlord via the system because then it was on record that she paid him. I don't think so. I think you write a check. So you have a paper trail, a literal physical paper trail.
It's old school of you, Joe.
That is old school of me,
Yeah, I was
David.
gonna say a lot of people won't have a checkbook anymore. Yeah.
Yep.
That's right.
They're
I
just gonna
wouldn't know where
Venmo
to
instead.
find a check in my house anymore. I mean, I know we have them.
I know exactly where all my checkbooks are, Dave.
Well,
I got to write a check tonight.
okay. Well, terrific.
It's an exciting-
You're
it's an exciting
take an
evening.
auto gyro to Istanbul when you're done.
Check writing Thursday. Good times.
It's a Zeppelin, Dave. It's a Zeppelin.
Oh my God.
All right. Well, we appreciate everybody sending in your kind notes, and we would love to hear from you. Our email address is hackinghumans@n2k.com. All right, let's jump into our stories here. Why don't you lead things off for us, Joe?
All right, my story comes from Yahoo Finance, and it's by Danielle Antos. And it is about a bakery owner named Loria Stein. She got an order for 1,000 cupcakes. Now, I know what you're thinking, Dave. Joe, why are you ordering 1,000 cupcakes? But it wasn't me.
I was reading this story and I was thinking to myself, how many cupcakes could I eat in one sitting? You know, like what would be if I were really hungry, how many cupcakes could I eat in one sitting without making a mess of things? And I don't think it would be more than maybe 3.
3? Well, it depends on the
Depends on
company.
the amount of icing. Yes.
Right,
How
yeah,
sweet is it?
you're
How
right.
much icing? How big are
Right.
they? Yeah.
Right.
3.
Yeah, 3, maybe. If you get those really fancy ones, maybe 2.
Yeah,
If you get those really
I
low
mean,
ones that your kids make when they're learning to bake, maybe 5.
I like a red velvet cupcake with the cream cheese icing. You know,
Oh,
like,
that's
and
a good
very
one.
Rich.
But that's
That is a
very
good one,
sweet.
yeah.
Very rich. So probably not. But I certainly would not know what to do with 1,000 cupcakes.
Right.
I don't have 1,000 friends to give cupcakes to.
So maybe this is like some business that says we're going to order 1,000 cupcakes. That's what I envision.
Right.
And they say to Loria, we're going to send you a check. She says that'll be $7,500, and the customer sends her a check for $7,500 via priority mail. So naturally, when she receives the check, Loria is a little bit suspicious. So she goes to her bank and asks for advice, and the bank employees tell her, "You'll be protected here, especially if you have an invoice and all these emails and so forth." Right? So with this advice from her bank, she says, "That's fine. I'll deposit the check." The check goes into her account and it clears. And then she gets an email after that saying, no, wait, I don't need 1,000 cupcakes. I only need 500 cupcakes. Can you send me back half the money? It's $37.50.
Oh.
And Lori says, "No, I've already purchased the ingredients and made all the batter. I'm already down the road of making 1,000 cupcakes. So you're going to get 1,000 cupcakes, and I don't know, you're just going to find something to do with them."
Right.
Because that was what, I already have the money.
Right.
But the next day, $7,500 was pulled from her bank account because the check turned out to be counterfeit. She goes to her bank and says, "What's up? You said this was, a done deal." And they said, "Oh no, that check was counterfeit." They got access to another company's checking account and they started printing checks. Right. So we didn't know that when you showed us the check. Well, okay, thanks. But maybe you should have provided that caveat to me before I went out and bought all these ingredients.
Yeah.
I think this is
especially
an information problem that the bank didn't advise her. Yes, this could be a scam. Why don't you wait until the check fully clears? Because by law, banks have to make the funds available to somebody within 2 business days.
So there's a gap there after the 2 days,
Right.
but before the check would clear. Oh, how many days
before
would that be? Like maybe another 2?
Yeah, I don't know. It happens pretty quickly.
It's a danger
But-
zone. Yeah,
It is the danger zone.
danger zone.
Yeah, I guess I don't know.
I'm not sure about that, but go on.
I don't know what the correct terminology is, but she actually called the company who was on the check, and Loria said that she was the 15th person to call this company and say that they had received a check from the company fraudulently. The company's like, "Yeah, we're victims here too. Somebody got a hold of our checking account information,
Right.
and we're trying to fight all these transactions. We're very sorry this happened, but we didn't order 1,000 cupcakes and we didn't send you a check for $7,500."
Right.
So what's interesting is the requirement to make it available is why it happens. The money gets clawed back when it becomes obvious that it's a fraudulent check. And this reminds me of 2 things. In the 80s, when I was in college, it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
It was a bit ago, yes.
I was
I got-
there. Yeah.
I got a check for like $50, and I went and I deposited it into an ATM at my account because I was like, or at my bank. I was like, I can just go deposit this at the newfangled ATM they have up there.
That's right.
I wonder if I can do a deposit. And sure enough, I write up a deposit slip, put the check in the envelope, and I noticed as soon as I put the money in there, they said, "Well, your bank balance has increased by $50. I'm like, "My bank balance has increased by $50. Can I withdraw $40? Because the bank only gave out 20s. So I withdrew $40, and I was like, as a college student, I couldn't withdraw $40 before I put that check in.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
Right.
I'm with you.
I
But I
remember
was-
those days. Yeah.
I was amazed that they let me take that out because I was like, I could have just put a piece of paper in that. I could have put nothing in that envelope and said, "There's a check for $50," and gotten something out. And in fact, there's been a recent viral video talking about this, where
Yeah.
people are going up to, it was Chase, they're going up to Chase ATMs, pretending they're depositing like $10,000 checks and then getting all the money out of the ATM because their account balance has increased by $1,000.
Mhm.
And it's on these platforms as ATM glitch, right? And you can see my air quotes in that glitch. It's not a glitch. You're just
yeah.
committing checking fraud.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Crime as a glitch, yes.
Right, yeah. So,
Yes. They will catch up with you.
they caught up with these
Yeah.
people immediately. and that's
Not worth
that's
it. Yeah.
that's the thing about when I saw this, I was like, I could say there's no money or say there's money in there and not put any money in. I'm like, yeah, but they'll know and they'll know it's me.
Mm-hmm.
They have there's a camera right here.
Mhm.
That's my PIN. That's my ATM card. That's my account I'm accessing. It's they're going to bill me back for that. I knew that was coming.
Yeah, criminals
anyway.
are not that smart, though. So, I mean,
Right. Check scams. One of the things that the FTC says on this is check scams almost always involve payment by check with some request to have some of the money refunded. So if you ever deposit a check and then the person who gave you that check calls you back and says, "Hey, I'm going to need half that money refunded," stop.
Mm-hmm.
That's how these scams work, and that's how this goes down. So what you say is, you know what? Let me call my bank, make sure your check is cleared, make sure everything's finalized, and if everything is finalized, I'll go ahead and see if I can get you some of your money back. But I can't make any promises because you paid by check, and I don't want this to be a checking scam. Just say that.
that's right.
It's fine.
Yeah. You always wait for the check to clear. This is a very common scam
Right.
in the art world as well. And a lot of people, they start making these elaborate commissions that they get online, and it's always a checking scam. I've received a bunch of fake checks before that I never cashed. And it's amazing. You have to wait for that check to clear, which is so hard when you really need the money.
Right.
But
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
how people get really burned.
Yes.
I would also say that when your banker says to you that this check has cleared and it is something that you're going to write against, get it in writing from them.
Right.
I got burned by this 20 years ago when we had a small business. We hadn't been in business very long, and someone wrote us a big check, one of the biggest checks we'd ever had up to that point. And I deposited it, and I had a funny feeling about it. And I went to the banker and I said, "Listen, I'm going to write against this money. I'm going to pay some bills. Is that okay?" And the banker said, "Absolutely." I said, "You're sure?" The bank said, "I am sure that there's no trouble here." I said, "Terrific."
Oh,
And I started writing against it, and you know what happened next.
Yeah, the check.
oh my
Now-
gosh.
The
Was
check
this a
bounced
fraudulent
into
check?
the next? No, it just bounced into the
just
next
bounced.
county. Yeah, and
Oh,
to their credit, the bank worked with us to make sure that we didn't bounce anything, with anyone else.
Right.
But and I'll also say that this is a good example of why you want to have a good personal relationship with your bankers.
Right.
You want to go in there sometime, especially if you're a small business.
Yep.
Get together with the small business banking people at your bank, so that when you have something that goes wrong, you're not just a number to them, and you can
Right.
try to work things out. Your bank
That's right.
doesn't want you to go out of business. It's no good for anybody.
Yeah.
So if they can help you, they will. But having that good relationship with them will go a long way.
So there
That's right.
is some upside here.
Yeah.
And that is that Loria is only out the cost of the ingredients, which she could make up if she just makes cupcakes and then sells them like as scam cupcakes, and puts a sign in her window
Scam
saying
cupcakes.
cupcake scam sale,
Uh-huh.
and says,
Ooh, that's appetizing.
right. And,
yeah, I'm not sure I'd want to eat a scammy cupcake.
maybe even print up
It's like
a
made with sawdust or something.
pamphlet with the
guaranteed
story.
food poisoning. That's right.
No, not guaranteed food poisoning. Just say, hey,
Well,
we got
I mean, if you
somebody try
see
to.
cupcake scam in the window, what do you think that means?
Okay,
Yeah.
come up with a more creative name than I did, but sell the cupcakes and tell the story about how somebody scammed you out of and you're
Yeah.
just trying to recoup the price of the ingredients. That's why you're selling these cupcakes at unbelievably low prices.
Cupcake overstock.
Right.
Surplus to cupcakes. Yeah, it's still not very appetizing. Like, I generally, we have too much of this food, so here, take some. Like,
Yeah.
oh, all right, terrific, yum. I don't know.
You say no checks accepted.
Yeah, no checks.
Yeah,
accepted.
that's for sure. Yep.
That's funny. All right. Well, we will have a link to that story in the show notes. My story this week comes from the folks over at Malwarebytes. It's a cybersecurity company. And this is a story about fake funeral live streams that are
I've seen
targeting
these.
people on, wait for it, Facebook.
Oh,
Yeah.
No.
So I'm
I've
curious,
seen it.
have either of you ever had any involvement or viewed a funeral live stream?
No.
Yes. Yes.
Oh.
Yes,
Yeah.
I have. It was
My,
before. It was not on. Yeah, it was actually. Was it on through Facebook? It was pre-COVID. It was many
Yeah.
years pre-COVID. So, but when you have a family that's as dispersed as mine is, it's kind of required. Not everybody can make the cross Atlantic or cross Pacific journeys for funeral.
Right. Right.
But I have actually seen these fake funeral scams on Facebook in my own network. They're just at the worst possible time in someone's life, often the child of someone who's grieving. You get
Right.
these terrible scams. I don't want to spoil your story, Dave, but I've seen it.
No,
It's
no.
awful.
No, it's awful. And so this report from Malwarebytes talks about basically two versions of this scam. One is a fake live stream link to the funeral. So what happens is, let's say I post to Facebook, "Hey everyone, I'm really sorry, to report that my loved one has passed away. Here is some information about their funeral that's coming up." And almost immediately after that will pop up a message that says, "Good news, here's the live stream to the funeral of Dave's loved one." And the other thing that they'll do is ask for donations on behalf of the family of the deceased. So if you follow one of these links, it will take you to a website that says, watch the live stream, the loving memory and funeral services of this person. And you press the button to go through. And of course, before you can log in to watch the stream, it asks you to sign up for some things. In this particular case, they ask you to sign up for a streaming service, which talks about streaming movies. Now, I suppose there's some plausibility here in that you're streaming video, a movie streaming service, kind of related, taking advantage of the fact that you're probably not in your best state of mind when you're dealing with something like this. You're probably, most people don't, test the live stream a week before it's ready to go. 5 minutes before the event, they're logging on to go see it. So there's a time constraint, a pressure. And then another screen pops up and asks you for membership activation, which of course they ask for your credit card details. Credit card details for what is supposed to be a free live stream. And in the small print of the page where you sign up with your credit card information, there's a little box that says, "I consent and accept the conditions of the membership and would like a secondary membership. 2x recurring payments every 14 days. Current rate, €64. Cancel anytime."
Oh my God. Jeez.
Yeah.
They're really hoping to
That's a
get
lot of
somebody who
money.
doesn't pay attention to their credit card bill.
Well,
Someone who doesn't, but even if they get you once
Right.
on the initial time, it's worth their time. And then, as I mentioned earlier, on top of that, you have the requests for money for the family, which of course doesn't go to the family.
Of course
just goes to the scammers. But this is really rampant on Facebook. There must be bots that are kicking this up and auto-replying to these posts about funerals and folks passing away. I have to say, this doesn't get much more despicable than this, right?
yeah, and it's definitely not just Facebook. I remember hearing, there's all those online obituary websites. Sometimes
Right.
there will be miscreants who basically like duplicate like a legacy type page, and they'll
Right.
try to get people who might want to leave a comment or something for the grieving family. They'll try to get people to go to a spammy website that requires you to pay money. It's
Right.
just, it's so gross. And as you said, a lot of times the timing is usually often during the actual funeral. So nobody's going to be, auntie's tech support during their dad's funeral. It's just not,
Right, right.
yeah. So it's just terrible. And I know for my family members who have used these remote services, it's usually the elderly who can't travel. So it's like they're not the
Right.
most tech savvy in many cases in my family anyway, to begin with. So they really wouldn't know. Many of my family members have never really used a computer. They use a phone at most. So they would just be like, I don't know what this is. I just assume this is what I'm supposed to do, and I'm not going to ask questions. So yeah,
Right.
I've seen this a lot in my own network, and it's awful. I hate that this is
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do have a note from the National Association of Funeral Directors who
Mm.
say you shouldn't have to pay to view a funeral live stream, and official links will be provided via the funeral director to the bereaved family. And that's what I experienced in the case where, there was a live stream of the funeral of one of my loved ones. And several people took advantage of it. Even after the fact, I got notes from people who said they were quite appreciative that they weren't able to attend, but that they could view the service,
Yep.
after the fact. So I mean, I think it's a useful thing, and it's the way it is now. But sadly, these scammers have found a way to take advantage of it. And we've talked about before, Joe. You and I have talked about those odd scammers who just make YouTube videos out of
Right.
obituaries.
Yeah.
They just read
Yes.
obituaries
Yep.
onto YouTube channels. And I came across that. I was searching for an obituary of someone who'd passed away, and the YouTube link was one of the first things I found. And I was like, what is this?
Right.
This is so weird. But they're just generating traffic. That's all they're doing is generating traffic. It's awful.
It just feels so
is.
icky. Even if it's not a blatant extortion, it's like, why would you do this to a family member? It feels like picking on the dead. Just,
Right.
all of it's just so gross.
Right. So I guess the lessons here are, number one, be mindful of what happens on your Facebook feed. If you post something on your feed about someone who's passed, keep an eye out for those comments that link to this sort of thing. Or if you see someone else posting something and they're falling victim to this, let them know and report it. But then the other thing would be to let your friends and family know that if there's going to be a live stream, it's going to come from the funeral home itself, and not something that just randomly happens on Facebook.
Yep.
All right, well, we will have a link to that story in the show notes. Before we get to Maria's story, let's take a quick break to hear a message from our sponsor.
We were talking about mitigating cyber threats to your organization before your users even see them. The new Fish ER Plus from KnowBe4 was developed to help you supercharge your organization's email security defenses. How? You get a unique crowdsourcing advantage. More than 10 million highly trained KnowBe4 end users from across the globe catch and report malicious email that makes it through all the filters. KnowBe4's Threat Lab then validates it with AI and with human researchers. Fish ER Plus blocks phishing threads other tools have missed and proactively removes them from your users' inboxes. Not quite time travel, but we think you'll agree it's a vital capability in any InfoSec professional's arsenal. Visit knowbe4.com/products/fisher-plus to learn more. That's knowbe4.com/products/fisher-plus. And we thank KnowBe4 for sponsoring our show.
All right, we are back. Maria, what do you have for us this week?
I have a scam that I have also, it's not too dissimilar from the funeral scam you're talking about. I've been seeing this one all over my personal networks in the last week. It seems to have just caught on like wildfire. So it's a new flavor of the Pegasus extortion scam. This one seems to just in the last week just have exploded. Now it comes with Google Maps imagery, and it is scaring the living daylights out of a lot of people who I don't think would normally have fallen for the classic version of the, hey, I found a video of you doing something naughty on some naughty websites. If you don't pay me money, I'm going to put these videos of you in a compromising position on the internet. This new version combines all that good, sarcastically goodness, and it also combines your physical address, or what the criminals believe to be your physical address, with your real name. and a picture of the place they believe to be your house from Google Maps Street View, cropped to make it look like somebody drove by or walked by your home with a phone, like a cell phone, and took a picture of your house as proof that they know where you live and they are watching you. And I have seen this all over social media in the last 2 days. In my world, my other part of my day job, monitoring the space world. There's somebody who has been to space before who's very influential. Her name is Kelly Girardi, and she just posted yesterday that she received this, and she almost paid the extortion because she was terrified. In this case, the hit that the criminal put together did accurately get her actual home on Google Maps. It actually got her correct address, and it linked it correctly with her name. So it looked completely legit to her that she basically had a stalker who was trying to extort her. It didn't set off any immediate red flags that this was an automated, mass sextortion scam that was hitting a lot of people. Thankfully, she didn't fall for it. She basically called a friend, and they told her, "Hey, actually, this is a new evolution of a common scam." But the Google Maps inclusion has been a really interesting wrinkle, especially with the cropping of the image to make it look like it's a vertical, 16 by 9 ratio image. So it really looks like something from someone's cell phone. And sometimes the address is wrong. So it'll be like, here's an address. It's not actually your address. It's like an old P.O. box or a place that you used to work at. So people can obviously tell, hey, that's not actually where I live. But
I don't live at the UPS store, but nice try.
Right? Yeah. Or like my old office building that I haven't worked at in years, like, okay, I mean, sure. But so that wouldn't set off any red flags. But if it gets the correct address that you actually live at, then people freak out. Like, what? This person knows where I live. It doesn't immediately leap to mind that it could be from Google Maps. So it's a new wrinkle on the old scam. Definitely something to know about and tell your network about. One piece of advice that I actually haven't thought of doing, but I'm thinking of doing now, is potentially just go to Google Maps and have them blur out your home on Street View if you haven't had them do that yet. It's actually quite easy to do. And that way, if a scammer is trying to scrape Google images of your house, it'll show up as a giant blur. And so the scam will not quite have the same effect. So that's something that you could do, but I haven't done that yet. So I'm going to have to add that to my to-do list.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if there's any downside to having your house blurred on Google Maps. Does it add any intrigue or I don't know.
Is it like a Streisand effect thing?
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe. I suppose if someone's trying to find your house, like a friend is trying to navigate to your house who's never been there before, your house comes up as a blur, it's going to go, okay, hopefully your house isn't a blur in real life.
Just tell them, come to the blurry house at the end of the street.
The blurry house at the end of the street, yes.
Yeah.
Exactly
come
that.
meet our pet Sasquatch, who's also blurry.
Yeah, but he's blurry in person. That's why all the pictures
exactly.
are.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's actually blurry. So do we have an idea of how this is happening? Is this an API for Google Maps that they've hooked into?
The theory is either they've hooked into the API, maybe that they're using some AI to actually automate this cropping of the image. I'm sure more is going to be revealed pretty soon from this one because Krebs just reported on it, I think, yesterday. So I think it's going to be interesting to dig in more as we learn more about how they're doing this. But I think the basis of the breach for the physical addresses that are being linked up with people's names, I think its roots are in an e-commerce breach from last year. So that seems to be how that is getting cross-referenced. So a lot of people shop online. So this one seems to be affecting a lot of folks. Apparently, also who have unusual names. So I've been on the lookout for this one. I've been kind of hoping I would get it. So people in my network who have gotten this email, most of whom thankfully just deleted it as spam, but a few did freak out. They also have unusual names. So that seems to be part of the profile of who's getting this. So my fellow unusually named folks, keep an eye out.
Huh. Yeah, I could imagine how disconcerting that would be to have it personalized to that degree. To have a picture there, that is an extra step.
Yeah, it's just enough to really, if you're not expecting something like this, and who would be, the idea of somebody outside of your house taking a picture of it and knowing some deep, terrible secret about you would absolutely bypass a lot of rational thought very easily. I could see that, especially if you've got kids at home or something, and you're concerned for their safety, obviously. So there, a lot of people I know who this has hit. As I said, they would not normally be affected by a scam like this, but this one got to them. So please be careful and let people know in your networks that this is out there.
Interesting.
Hmm.
All right. Well, we will have a link to that story in the show notes. Joe, Maria, it is time to move on to our catch of the day.
Our catch of the day comes from Anne, who writes, "This phishing email was sent to a friend. From a business perspective, I think this example stresses the importance of the testing phase in the software development lifecycle. The email came with a PDF attached, but Anne's friend didn't have time to analyze it. But they assume it was just a malicious link. And Anne says she hopes that their success rate with this campaign was 0. So, Dave, why don't you go ahead and read this one? It's pretty good.
It says, Adobe File Encryption. You have been sent a files using Adobe Encryption. Receiver email, victim email. This message was sent to you by your contact who is using Adobe Encryption. Adobe Encrypted Sign is a secure password-protected tool for sending, receiving, and organizing business files online. It allows users to sign large files securely and quickly, making it a convenient and secure method.
How many times can you put secure in one sentence?
It's safe. Trust me,
Or
bro.
one paragraph, right? Yeah. So
Says right there on the email.
right, that it's secure.
Yeah.
This file was shared on Tuesday, August 2024. It doesn't actually Thursday, and it doesn't actually have a date.
Just a Thursday. Any Thursday.
Right.
Pick a Thursday.
Yeah.
They're all
And,
good.
The victim email is surrounded by hashtags or pound signs, as we used to call them. That is obviously supposed to be replaced in in the process of mailing this out.
Yeah.
So whoever wrote the script that automates this screwed up big.
Oops.
And
How did you know my email was victim email? It's like, you know me.
victim email at victim.com. Victim.me.
That reminds me of the guy who bought the domain Do Not Reply. Do you
Yeah.
remember that story?
Yes.
Yeah. Guy bought the domain Do Not Reply.com, and the messages he gets.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Can't even imagine.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ann.
I see in my own world, and Maria, I suspect this happens to you from time to time as well, is that you will get something like this from a well-meaning PR person. Right? And it says like, dear first name, last name.
Yeah, all the time.
Right.
All the time. I mean, at least if it's a PR person who's actually trying to reach out, I get it. They're busy, but I love it when you get the it's not even low effort, but no effort from a scammer. It's like, come on, if you want my money, you try a little harder, please.
Yeah. The ones I love that are ones that are clunky like that, but are clearly trying to be really personal. Like it says, dear first name, last name. I listened to your podcast name last week, and boy, did I love it. Congratulations on all the success of podcast name. I would love to have our client name on your podcast name. Like oh God.
Right. I get
mail merge. Curse his name every day.
I used to get those invites at my JHU email when I had a JHU email.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, you want to have this guy on your podcast? I'm like, how did you get my email address? My JHU email address this is somebody who went to the effort to look me up on JHU's website and then put my email into some database. Somebody did this, and I would like to find out who it is.
Wasn't me.
I know it wasn't you.
I will say, I mean, it is surprising the databases that are out there that are just a regular part of, for the folks who are doing sales and business development, the tools that they can buy, the legitimate tools that they can buy,
right,
that have scraped everything,
right.
Websites, social media, that just, if you have a hot lead, you can put in somebody's name and it'll give you a history of their email addresses, their work experience, just all kinds of stuff about them that is so disconcerting when you see it all collected in one place, and yet
it sure is. And
then as we've seen for the folks who need it.
Yeah, we've seen with the scammers, and they use that to their advantage to scare the bejesus out of people,
right,
and annoy the rest of us.
Right.
Yeah. What a world. What a
It
world. Well, thank you, Anne, for sending in the catch of the day. And of course, we would love to hear from you. If there's something you'd like us to consider for the show, you can email us. It's hackinghumans@n2k.com.
We want to thank all of you for listening, and of course, we want to thank our sponsors at KnowBe4. They are experts in helping users do the right thing through new school security awareness training.
And that is our show, brought to you by N2K Cyberwire. We'd love to know what you think of this podcast. Your feedback ensures we deliver the insights that keep you a step ahead in the rapidly changing world of cybersecurity. If you like our show, please share a rating and review in your favorite podcast app. Please also fill out the survey in the show notes or send an email to hackinghumans@n2k.com. We're privileged that N2K Cyberwire is part of the daily routine of the most influential leaders and operators in the public and private sector, from the Fortune 500 to many of the world's preeminent intelligence and law enforcement agencies. N2K makes it easy for companies to optimize your biggest investment, your people. We make you smarter about your teams while making your team smarter. Learn how at n2k.com. This episode is produced by Liz Stokes. Our executive producer is Jennifer Iben. We're mixed by Elliot Peltzman and Trey Hester. Our executive editor is Brandon Karpf. Peter Kilpie is our publisher. I'm Dave Bittner.
I'm Joe Kerrigan.
And I'm Maria Varmazis.
Thanks for listening.